Hey guys, it's Penguin here, and welcome back to another gold making video. In today's video, we are going to be going through all of my current specializations and all of my current characters in the War Within, showing you exactly what I'm working on, what's making me gold, and all of that. I did a very similar video to this in Dragonflight at the early part of that expansion, and a lot of people enjoyed it, and I've been getting a lot of questions about my specific builds, so I wanted to go through that today. Now, this video is going to be slightly more laid back. We're not going to do anything fancy. I'm just going to kind of show you my builds, what I've been selling, what's been working, what's not been working, and hopefully this can give you a few ideas for your personal builds. As always, everybody's going to treat their characters a little bit differently depending on how much time you have to play, how many characters you can run, etc., what kind of your goals are. But hopefully you can take away something useful from today's video and you can start applying that to your own gold making. So without further ado, let's get started. And so to get started, I thought it would be most appropriate to start with my main character. However, my main character isn't really my main gold maker, and that'll become more prevalent throughout this video, but this is my main. It is a monk. You have seen him in many videos, and this is my main tailor, my main enchanter, and also my cook. In terms of tailoring, I haven't really done anything super special. I decided to go into bolt crafting that you see here. So I actually have dawn weave as well as dusk weave bolts. And as you can see, my character level is all the way up to 100. I do just have some basic grain tools. Technically, I could get those to rank 5, but I do plan on upgrading to blue pretty soon. And this really is just my bolt crafter at the moment. If we take a look at specializations, I don't really have anything into armor crafting because I don't do any sort of crafting orders, so that's going to be a trend without this video. None of my tunes are set up for crafting orders just because I play on a lower pop server, and in the cooldowns tree, I actually decided to go all the way through the main node first. If you guys have seen my dedicated tailoring video, I talk about having multiple alts and kind of only focusing on one path, but because this is my main tailor, I actually decided to go into this main node primarily for these bag recipes. Bags are one of my favorite gold making items, whether it's this expansion or, previous expansions, or even old world bags are just super great, and so it was really important to me to make sure I can get these bags pretty fast. After that, I just chose to go into dawn weave. It wasn't really any sort of specific choice. I just decided to pick this side of the tree, and so I decided to make sure I could unlock this final node by putting 15 points into here, and this allowed me to max out my dawn weave cooldown. And so currently I actually did these on stream earlier today, so I don't have anything right now, but at my current prices, these are actually pretty profitable. In terms of other points, the only thing I did is I'm currently maxed out into weaving and unraveling. This just gives me a bunch of skill towards weaving and also unraveling if I decide to do that. Primarily, my next step really is to max out this one as well. And then lastly, I do have some points into textile treasures to help with my multi-craft. You might have noticed that I'm holding on to 2 points. I'm kind of deciding if I just want to quickly finish out the multi-craft tree or finish out the skill right here, but we can look at some of the crafts I've been doing. And in terms of just some, example profits, I've been doing my cooldowns almost every day. I kind of wait until they stack up a little bit, so probably every 2 to 3 days or so. And right now, the bolt craftings are in a little bit of a weird spot. This is because the huge cloth farm called the Siege was actually nerfed a few days before this, and ever since then, cloth has been skyrocketing. If we take a look at Weaver cloth, for example, as you guys can see, the bolts themselves are anywhere between 40 to 60,000 gold, the cloth is anywhere between 30 and 35, and the higher versions as well are kind of following that as well. So as you guys can see, dawn weave have completely skyrocketed. If we take a look at dusk weave, same thing here. So cloth prices have gone pretty insane. I'll throw a screenshot of my profit margins that I saw just a few days ago before all of these nerfs, but with cloth getting harder to get and prices going up, margins are not as good, but still 16% isn't too terrible. Now, something I wanted to quickly highlight, a lot of people have asked me how I actually leveled my tailoring all the way to 100, and I actually did it through this aligning right here. And when I did this was actually profitable. With quality 2 mats, I could guarantee quality 2, and at the time, quality 2s sold for a pretty high price, and so I was actually able to make almost all of my gold back by purely just crafting these. At the moment, especially with the Dawn thread increasing in price, this definitely is not as profitable anymore unless you can guarantee quality 3s, but if you're looking a way to level up your tailoring pretty fast, I do recommend it. Then really the only thing else I've been crafting on this character are bags. At the moment, bags are not doing great on my server just because of those increased cloth prices, but I do sell on a few different servers, so I can still craft these, send them to a different server, and make some gold. They're not nearly as good as they used to be, but mainly this character is really just here for cloth cooldowns until I get some more specializations made up. Up next, we have Enchanting, and this is actually my main crafting enchanter. I do have a Disenchanter, which we'll look at in just a little bit, but this right here, I have 102 out of 105 skill, so I could still level up a little bit more. I went ahead and got my purple tool right here. I still need to upgrade the other two, but this character right here is primarily into rings, as well as profession enchant crafting. My main goal for this profession is to craft the high quality rings, and I do have all of their recipes. I'm just missing a little bit of skill due to not having the rest of my tools to actually guarantee these crafts, but the market right now for enchanting is a little bit weird. Because this is all pre-season 1 stuff, the enchant prices are a little bit lower than expected, and so a lot of these guaranteed rank 3s aren't actually very profitable. A lot of your money actually comes from using concentration, which you can see I only have 62 left. For example, if we wanted to take a look at this haste right here, if we go to simulation mode, we use whether we want to use the best quality or we can just use quality 2 items with a little bit of concentration. As you can see, that profit is actually pretty good. Of course, that cost us about 200 concentration, so we do have a limited amount that we can craft. But as you can see, if we do decide to use a max quality, I'm missing 8 skill, which I can get from just upgrading my tools. But if we actually decide to move that to the highest quality, as you can see, it's just not profitable at the moment, and that's just because, like I said, the quality 3s are a little bit too cheap compared to the other materials. I'm sure this is going to change during the season, but at the moment, I'm really just using my concentration to craft a few enchants per day. The quick tip I wanted to mention, if you guys have Enchanting or you're looking to shuffle for Artisan Acuity, do not accidentally forget about this tree over here. If you guys put 5 points into this main slot, you'll be able to choose a sub-specialization, and you'll be able to unlock this decorations tree. Immediately upon learning, you're going to learn a handful of these gleeful glamours, which you can immediately start crafting, and each one of these is not only going to give you a knowledge point, but it's going to give you 5 Artisan Acuity each. So immediately putting 5 points in and unlocking this first sets of recipes, you're actually going to immediately gain those 5 knowledge points back, as well as a bunch of Artisan Acuity, and you can continue that around up to here. All 4 of these nodes actually give recipes, and by the end of this, you'll actually be 2 knowledge points up. So right here, you're going to technically spend 20 knowledge points, but you're going to gain 22, so you actually are plus 2. And that includes all of the crazy Artisan Acuity you're going to get from it as well. So if you guys have all of these learned and you haven't done this already, definitely do it for some easy Acuity as well as some free knowledge points. The last thing I want to mention on this character, and I know we're spending a lot on this main character, but we're just kind of getting situated, and this is cooking. Cooking has been off and on basically since early access. If you guys did watch my live stream during early access release, you guys saw that we made a ton of gold actually processing fresh fillets. Sadly, a lot of people caught on, so that wasn't necessarily profitable for the long term, but some of these items in here are profitable. For example, if we take a look at these meatballs right here, about 240 of them sell per day, so nothing crazy. Their profit margin's actually pretty good, but you're looking at some low quality numbers. Right here you're only making 6 gold per craft, but you're also only spending 13 gold per craft. The rib stickers are another example right here. You're almost practically doubling your money, but still you're dealing with some low cost values. These do sell a lot more often at about 776 per day. And there's quite a few of these in this list. Something I want to highlight is that I do have the feast recipes, and when I first got this recipe, it was actually pretty profitable, but at the moment, fish prices have just gone up because I'm sure people are stockpiling for season 1, so it's just not profitable at the moment, but I do expect to turn it around. But one of the big money makers for me has actually been the chopped miso blooms. I actually have a pretty rough spreadsheet on my current spreadsheet. I'll have that linked in the description. I'm going to make it pretty soon, but basically what you can do is buy the rank 2 miso bloom and chop them up, assuming you have 100 skill, and it's actually pretty profitable. It depends on the current prices. Let's check miso bloom right now. Yeah, right now it would be profitable. I'll put up some expected profit on screen, but this is something you can just kind of AFK, semi-AFK a stack at a time, make some extra gold if you'd like, but overall I think cooking is going to be one of those professions that just improve over time. Alright, moving on, we have Leatherworking and Inscription, and some of these alts are going to go by pretty fast as I don't do too much on them, but I will say this is probably one of my most interesting tunes at the moment. In terms of Inscription, nothing too crazy has happened. I was able to level it up pretty fast. I'm missing 4 points, but I'll just get that by passively making treaties. I do have a blue multi-craft tool, everything else is just green, and I do have quite a bit of knowledge points, at least a pretty good amount, I would say. At the beginning, I did spec into knowledge in order to learn the treaties. That's how I primarily leveled up my profession, and I do have a few points in multi-craft, but the first thing that I did on this character was actually go into inks. At the beginning, especially in early access, ink crafting was amazing. I made a ton of profit crafting inks as well as reagents, and slowly that has kind of died off, but this was my initial investment. After this, I've kind of pivoted towards missives, so nothing in this tree but missives over here. I have a few points in here, and missives are actually doing pretty good for not even being able to guarantee quality 3. Kind of like a lot of markets, the trend right now is things go in and out of profit, so it purely depends on how current prices look. But for example, right here, technically missives are profit, the profit margin is very slim, so I wouldn't necessarily craft it right now, but in the past, there's been some really good profit. This one right here is slightly better. We're looking at about 14%, but depending on the time of day and when you can catch reagents, I've actually purchased some reagents and have upwards to about a 30% profit margin, and that's on quality 2. Now, in terms of what missives sell best, I highly recommend taking a look at the average sold per day, as well as the sale rate. And as you can see right here, the Fire Flash is actually pretty good. The profit right now is actually very, very good. I would probably craft these if I wasn't recording a video, but you definitely want to make sure you take a look at the average daily sold. Now, the average daily sold is not necessarily a super correct number. Obviously, more than 84 of these sell per day, but this gives you a quick comparison. So if we take a look at, for example, the Quick Blade right here, the Quick Blade only has 36. So 84, looks pretty good compared to that 36. If we take a look at the Harmonious, that's at 41. If we take a look at the Fever Flare, that's up at 86. So you can obviously see just from those quick tooltips that the Fever Flare, as well as the Fire Flash, and the Peerless, which is about 50, are kind of the better ones compared to, Quick Blade and Harmonious. At the end of the day, it comes to profit, but missives right now are doing pretty good, even without being max. Sadly, reagents and inks have just kind of gone sadly down the drain for me. I really don't craft them anymore until sometimes prices spike, but at the moment I'm really just focused on missives on my Inscription. Now, the more interesting profession we have here is actually leatherworking. Leatherworking is pretty exciting because this is one of the professions I started off early on. I'm at 95 out of 100, so something I can definitely improve. I'm only using green tools, and at the beginning, I actually spec'd into profession equipment. I did this to hop onto the green profession gear trend at the start of early access and at the start of real release, because this profession has a lot of gear attached to it. Right here, you're looking at just 8 different items right off the bat, and that is all green BOE gear that can be sold on the auction house. And with that build, just kind of 30 points into here, a few points into the main spec, and with some, high leatherworking skill and green tools, as you can see, I am guaranteeing the highest quality with really cheap materials. I can use all quality 1 materials, and my crafting cost is like 400 gold a piece. Some of them are slightly more expensive, for example right here, but for the most part you're dealing with anywhere between 1,000 to like 400 crafting cost a piece. And at the beginning of the expansion, yes, it was a lot more pricey. I was spending probably about 2 to 5k per craft, but I was also selling these for like 20,000 gold a piece, and so I've been able to rack in multiple millions just on this gear alone. Now, many of you are probably thinking, Penguin, this doesn't help, early access is over. I want to make a profit now, and these are still super good today. If I pull up my second account, there we go, and make this a little bit bigger. This is on one of the high pop servers that I sell on, and as you guys have probably potentially heard the cha-chings in the background, that is all of this gear selling. And so currently we have about 40k coming in, and if we look at the mailbox, this is just from today for a few hours, we have about 240,000, and that's not even the whole mailbox, and this is strictly just those 8 items that I showed you on the other screen. Now, in terms of profit margins, let's see the best way to do this. Let me move this over like that. Bear with me. There we go. All right, we can take a look. If we take a look at the apothecary's cap, as you can see, it cost me about 400 gold to craft. And if we were to look at the mailbox right here, as you can see, I'm currently actively selling these for about 2,700 gold. So take away 400 gold, that's like 2,300 gold profit every single cap, and there are quite a few caps in here, not including all of the, where are they? There, all of these sold ones right here as well. They have fallen a little bit, they're selling at like 1,800 right here, but still, take away 400 from that, that's still very, very profitable. Moving on, we have the apron, same thing, about 400. As you can see, not nearly as good as margins. These are only selling for about 1,000, but that's still doubling my money. Moving on to the gym cutter's apron, same thing, about 500 gold. I'm sure you can kind of see them in the mailbox. There's an apron right there for another 1,000 gold. Then we have the gloves, which are a little bit more expensive. They're about 1,700 gold a piece. And if we take a look at the gloves, as you can see, we're selling these for about almost 5,000. So still, profit there is good. Once again, taking a look at the hide shaper's cover, that's about 1,200 gold. If we look at the cover, we're selling for about 2,000, and so on. The nice one right here is the gardener's basket, which is about, we can just say 1,000 gold, and if we find some baskets right here, sold for another 4,000. So as you can see, these are still selling today. Of course, the margins aren't as extreme, but still, if let's just say we have a 50% margin on everything, which obviously we don't. For example, this right here is way more than 50%. We can assume that at least like 150k of this is pure profit, and this is really simple. I haven't been cancel scanning at all as I've been recording this video, and we are still getting sales, and this is on a very full pop server. We're actually basically out of items, so no wonder we're not getting sales anymore. But yeah, with this low effort leatherworking, I've made millions of gold just from these 8 items right here. And the reason why I picked leatherworking is just because, like I said, there's a lot of recipes, but there's profession equipment in a ton of professions. So don't feel like you just have to sell leatherworking stuff. You can sell blacksmithing, you can sell tailoring, etc., etc. Outside of that, after I finished that, I went for reagents, so I'm fully maxed in reagents right here. We also have the multi-craft and skill node right here. And these are also making a pretty good profit. As somebody who currently only has green tools, I can only guarantee quality 2, but even using rank 1 items, as you can see, this profit is still very, very good, and these sell very, very fast. They are reagents, so you do have to deal with cancel scanning, etc., but we'll see a mailbox in a little bit that has these in there, and this is just really, really good. The bandings are another one of my favorite. Profit, like I said, fluctuates between the hours of the day, but right there we're looking at 18%, and every once in a while the crystal fused is also pretty good, which hey, it's decent right now. Sometimes you can find profit in other things, 5%, nothing crazy, I probably wouldn't craft it. Same here. So these do fluctuate, but this is yet again a pretty easy market to get into. Not too many knowledge points, I'm not into armor or anything like that, but in terms of leatherworking, it's been very, very good. Now, moving on, we have my warrior, which is probably my most profitable character so far this expansion. But to be fair, it's also the one I focused on the most, so that's to be expected. Something that makes this character unique is that this is the only character that I have shuffled Acuity for. Now, the reason why I ended up shuffling Acuity is actually for a YouTube video, which ended up coming out pretty late anyways, but I was really trying to do that during early access. It was my skinning video. However, the lack of information didn't really plan out, but I did shuffle during early access for some extra skinning points, and I also shuffled to get all blue tools on this Jewelcrafter. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the Artisan Acuity shuffle just because it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of gold, and obviously you have to drop professions, meaning you have to lose progress, etc., which is why this is the only character I did it on, because I really don't care if I drop skinning. This is not my old world skinner, so I had the ability to drop that. In terms of shuffling now, I really don't think it's necessary. If we take a look at my Artisan Acuity levels on all of my characters, as you can see, many of them are past that 900 mark, and some of them who aren't is because they've already gotten blue tools, and I've gotten all of this organically. Like I said, this is the only character I've shuffled on, and for example, Shield Sense, which is the character we were just on, has 900 Acuity, and they also have that Scribe blue tool. So basically we're up to 1200 Acuity by just existing. So shuffling at this point really isn't necessary, but because I was able to get these blue tools last week very, very fast, it allowed me to max out my Jewelcrafting and max out my reagent crafting, which led me to a lot of gold. In terms of my specializations, it is very, very easy. I have 30 points into shaping and then 15 into each of the other reagent trees, and that's it. I currently have 30 points saved up, and that's because I'm deciding exactly where to go to next. It will not be Jewelcrafting because I don't do crafting orders. It will either be going into gyms or prospecting. I'm leaning towards gyms because prospecting is just not very fun for me, but I'll update you guys and see where we go. But with this very limited build, like I said, I am 30 points into here, I have 15 each, so only 60 points right here with all blue tools and maxed out level. Reagents have been super nice. Now, as the days have gone on, more and more people are catching up to this, right? More people have blue tools by just naturally playing the game, and prices have kind of inflated. There's been a supposed nerf to the ability of getting glass through prospecting. So glittering glass over the past week has also skyrocketed in price. It used to be easily 40 to 50 gold, even lower, and now it's regularly 90 plus, and that's because it seems like they've changed prospecting rates, and so prices have gone a little bit wonky. But even with that, you can find some nice profit. For example, if you just wanted to craft quality 2 marbled stone, right here, which just costs bismuth as well as pebbles, this doesn't even require a max specialization. You can find about a 36% profit rate, and these sell very, very fast. If you do happen to be able to craft the rank 3s, sometimes there's a lot more profit in it. At the moment, there's actually not, just because of how pricey the bismuth is compared to the marbled stone price. So sometimes that happens, but every once in a while this will jump up where you can get like 30% profit, which is very, very good. Similar thing with the gem cutters right here with just quality 2, you're looking at about a 22% rate, and if you look at the quality 3s, it's just not nearly as much at the moment. And if we want to look at the vials, these are kind of been hurting the most due to that glittering glass. Rank 2s are barely profitable, and we take a look at the rank 3s, they're also barely profitable. Vials used to be super good, but margins have just gotten a bit slim. Decorative lenses are probably the thing that changes the most. Right now, quality 2 right here, you're looking at about 12%. If you use quality 4, they're actually up to 20%, and these actually sell pretty well for me. Normally I craft quality 3 versions of these. The only thing is, like I said, they do fluctuate from time to time, but generally you can find profit in at least a few of these reagents. Every once in a while, the inverted prism is also very good. For example, 15% profit is not terrible with these prisms, but they used to be way, way better at the start of the expansion. If we look at using quality 2 reagents, profit doesn't change too much. And if we look at quality 3, as you can see, the margin is still about 15% wherever you go. So reagents, kind of just the trend of everything, profit margins are going down, but still you can find some pretty good profit depending on what you go on. If you guys are curious about how I leveled up my Jewelcrafting, I purchased this blasphemite recipe from the auction house. I bought it during beginning of the expansion, so I paid a lot of gold for it. At the current moment, it's way cheaper. This gives you 3 skill points, so you can definitely craft a few of these all the way to 100. You'll lose a little bit of gold, but it's not nearly as bad as it was whenever Blasphemite and everything else was a lot more expensive. I'm not going to go into it a lot, but this is my skinning character who happens to be maxed out here. So this is my daily skin character for the Superb Beast Fang. You can find a dedicated video about that in the description down below, but this is the character that I did my testing on. So just throwing that out there, I really don't do anything else with skinning. He's just kind of sitting there. I might drop the profession, or if the Beast Fang goes up, I'll probably continue to skin. It is some pretty easy gold per day, but I really don't have any plans on maxing out this profession. Up next, we have my hunter, who probably was my least played character in Dragonflight, and actually has become a pretty decent character in the War Within. Something that's pretty bad habit, I don't know why it happens, I think it's probably just due to the experimentation system. Alchemy generally gets overlooked in my personal list. You know, I know alchemy is a good profession at heart, but it's just kind of slightly annoying to do, so I tend to just kind of push it to the side, but this time I tried my best not to. So this is my alchemist as well as my engineer, and in terms of alchemy, I do have it maxed all the way. I still have green tools, and if we take a look at my specializations, I'm basically all in thaumaturgy. Kind of like I said, I generally tend to just push alchemy to the side. I really don't have enough time per day to really max out every single profession that I want to, so some get kicked to the side, which I decided to go into thaumaturgy because that's just kind of an AFK shuffle I can do whenever I want, and I'm not really pressured of keeping up with knowledge points to unlock flask or potions or anything like that. In terms of profit, actually at the beginning of the expansion, I was able to make a little bit of profit with healing potions. That's not really the case now, obviously, but you used to be able to do that pretty well in the past. Same thing with the mana potions, but as always, people get better specializations, so that stuff kind of falls, but thaumaturgy is still pretty decent. Of course, with the cloth spiking, you know, I'm not exactly sure the true profit with all of the weaver cloth going crazy, but especially just a few days ago, actually buying weaver cloth in bulk and actually doing thaumaturgy on weaver cloth gives you a bunch of storm dust and other resources, which you can sell, and that was actually pretty profitable. Also, because I am spec'd into this right here, not only do I get the gleaming transmutagen resource, but I can also turn them into blasphemite, which of course just increases that gold as well. I am working on a thaumaturgy calculator, hopefully that will be out relatively soon, but in terms of alchemy, this is just kind of my chill character if I ever want to shuffle. The slightly more exciting thing is my engineer. Like I said, I also have this fully skilled up. I still have green tools. Something that I probably should mention, you guys have probably noticed I'm saving a bunch of Artisan Acuity, and that's because I'm still deciding exactly what character or what profession gets the blue tools. I haven't fully decided at the time of recording this video, but probably by either Monday or maybe reset day, I'll definitely get those blue tools made. Right now, I'm just a little bit of a hoarder. But even with the green tools, as you guys have been able to see, profit is still coming in, and for engineering, I've gone strictly into part or reagent crafting. That's basically the trend here, so I have 40 into inventing, 40 into parts, and now I'm filling out Scrapper for some more resourcefulness bonuses. When I was leveling up engineering, the first thing I did was unlock parts to get the mount parts, and I did end up getting a few of the mount parts, which I ended up just selling on the auction house. I was one of the people that stocked up on parts pre the War Within, so I crafted a bunch of thorium widgets. My average crafting cost was about 3.5 gold because I bought thorium ore at about 80 silver a piece, crafted them into actual ingots, bought some really cheap rune cloth, so my crafting cost was about 3.5 gold. A lot of hours of smelting, a lot of hours of crafting, but it definitely paid off. The amount that I did shuffle, I ended up, like I said, selling the mount parts as they are, and all of the extra widgets and thorium I had, I just resold it on the auction house, and at the time of selling it off, the thorium widgets sold for like 85 gold a piece, so that was a pretty good profit margin compared to my 3.5 gold crafting cost. But looking at profits today, if we look, for example, you know, the gyrating gears are still pretty good. At the moment, I'm just crafting quality 2 because I don't have all of those blue tools yet, but even at this price, right, you know, technically I should probably be using the quality 1 bismuth and not necessarily the quality 2, but still some pretty decent profit there. If we take a look at the bismuth bolts right here, You know, I probably should be using quality ones. It really doesn't matter too much, but some decent profit. The bolts themselves have been kind of going in and out of profit. A few days ago, I was getting about a 30% margin, but of course prices have crashed a little bit. 13 is not too terrible. Right here, we're looking at about a 20% margin on the wiring. If we take a look at safety switches, it's a little bit lower. We're about 16. If we look at the enhancers, I don't believe this one's profitable. Nope, not really. Chaos, not really. Bottled Brilliance is actually pretty decent. Even though it's a high margin, you're only making about 33 gold per craft, so nothing crazy. These also don't really sell fast. As you can see, the average daily sold is like 3. Now the rank 3s are a lot higher, so I wouldn't necessarily put all of my gold into this, but it might be worth a shot. And yeah, I've just really been focusing on parts. Kind of like I mentioned before, I haven't really decided exactly where I'm going to put my blue tools. I'm leaning towards my engineer just because I kind of said, you know, alchemy generally gets kicked to the side, so I'll probably get blue tools for my engineer. Also, there's profession equipment here. I don't craft as many, but these profession equipment also sell well. I've sold quite a few Fisher Friends, and some of these actual toys have sold as well. Nothing is super great. This right here, for example, makes a little bit of profit, but that margin is pretty slim, and I'm not really spec'd into any of this right here. The jumper cables right now apparently are pretty profitable, so you can try some things out like this, but really I'm just focusing on those reagent parts that you saw up here. Then my second to last character, probably my last character in terms of non-repeats, right here we have my blacksmith. This is actually my second jewel crafter, however, I haven't really actually leveled this profession. I just haven't had the time. Maybe this ends up becoming my designated prospector, we'll have to see, but at the moment I'm really only dealing with blacksmithing, which I'm currently at level 94. I can actually get this up to 100 right now, hopefully if my procs go right for this ignition. Currently have grain tools, and right now I'm kind of all over the place into alloys as well as the ever-burning forge. This over here is the multicraft node, so I put multicraft into here, as well as just some generic stats to unlock the resourcefulness tree, and then as you can see, I'm a few points into here. This profession at the moment isn't getting too much love as I'm still just dealing with some knowledge point stuff, but this will be my alloy crafter, and then I'll likely either go into frameworks or into the weapon stones as I don't deal with crafting orders, and I'm not going to deal much with these profession equipment either. In terms of profit, you know, nothing has been too crazy on this character. You gotta keep in mind that in order to get your multicraft bonus, etc., you want to make sure you're using, you know, your ignition right here. So obviously I don't have that buff on, so without the buff, you're only looking at about, you know, 6% and now -% profit, but if you do have that buff on, your numbers will go up. Either way, you know, alloys haven't been too great for me because I'm just not fully spec'd into it. This character is actually used for shuffling, which I'll talk about in a little bit, so nothing too crazy here. There are some nice profession equipment, so very similar to leatherworking, you can also sell these, and, you know, go into a lot of different crafts, but blacksmithing right now is kind of pushed on the back burner, but my goal is to go into alloys to make more profit. And there we go, we are officially down to my second character. This character is on my second account, and this is my shuffler / disenchanter. So right here, we do have Enchanting. Now, I'm still working on getting the skill higher. I just have been lazy, haven't bought the items to reach it back up, but this is my Disenchanter. So I did go through that path right here, kind of like I talked about on my other Enchanter. Definitely do this just for the free Acuity, but I spent a lot of the Acuity to buy additional knowledge point books, so I'm fully maxed out on the Disenchanting tree, which allows me to not only shuffle, you know, blue items for shards, but I can shuffle green items for dust, as well as epic items for crystals. My tailor is nothing special either. This is actually the tailor that is really highlighted in my tailoring cloth cooldown video. So this is right here a Dawn Weave bolt crafter. As you can see, I have about 9 saved up, so I should probably craft these, but I have this many points into right there, nothing into fabric, and about this many points into multicraft. So I want nothing crazy. This tailor right here, most of the time, if you're not crafting bolts, are crafting cuffs for the shuffle, which the shuffle I've talked about in actually my previous video. Sadly, right when that video released, the cloth farm got nerfed a few hours later, which was very unfortunate timing. But this does mean, for example, you know, I'm hanging onto this cloth that I bought 4 days ago, and 4 days ago I bought this cloth for 7 gold and 89 silver a piece. And as you guys can see, you know, a stack of that would have cost about 7.8 thousand gold. And with the crazy cloth prices, I could sell all of that back for basically 100,000 gold. So technically that was a pretty good flip. That was not planned. I did not expect anything to get nerfed, but that's just leftover materials I had from shuffling, which I can easily sell, but I'm just going to use it probably when crafting my own things. In terms of disenchant shuffling, like I said, if you wanted to learn more about that, I talked specifically about the gleaming shard shuffle, which are these items right here in that previous video. However, there are multiple shuffles going around. Instead of crafting the tailoring bracers for shards, what you can do is craft the blacksmithing hammer, which is the profession tool blacksmithing hammer with blacksmithing. It only costs 1 alloy, and then that can be disenchanted for storm dust, and that's the popular green disenchant shuffle. Technically, you can also buy cheap BOEs off the auction house, but buying things off the auction house, especially in bulk, can be a little bit annoying, so that's kind of the go-to crafting shuffle. If you guys actually view my shuffling spreadsheet, at the bottom I am calculating data, so if you guys are looking for data, it's there. I don't know if I'll have a dedicated video since it's basically the exact same thing as the blue shuffle, just simply with a different item, but if you do want to calculate profits, you can check that out as well. In terms of the crystal shuffle, what you're looking for is actually dark moon decks. Now, sadly, crystal prices have been rising. So for example, crystals used to be about 1,000 gold a piece, they're now up to 2,500, and because of that, people have caught on, so dark moon card prices have also risen. However, if you look on the Undermine Journal, or the Undermine Exchange, sorry, it's been renamed, you can actually probably find some cheap dark moon decks. For example, when I was looking at this just yesterday, or actually 2 days ago at this point, I was able to, you know, if you calculate, add all of these up, a deck cost about 400 gold a piece. However, I was able to find a server on the NA region that had about 80 decks at 270 gold a piece. And at that 270 mark, it was actually pretty profitable. So I went over there, bought all of them, sent them over through my warband bank, disenchanted them, and was able to profit that way. Of course, that comes down to finding it on a server, so obviously that won't be doable for everybody. If somebody buys it out before you, you won't be able to do that fully, but take a look at things. You never know when you'll come across a deal. Of course, you do need to be spec'd into it. Oh, that's the wrong profession. You do need to be spec'd into it if you want a good chance. Ideally, you'd also want to have max skill, which I don't have at the moment, but that is something you can do if you're looking to disenchant shuffle. But because this is on my second account, I actually sent some items over here to sell, and this is just an example of some things I've sold in the past few hours. So going back to my main enchanter, like I said, I used concentration to craft kind of my high-end enchants. So right here we have a high-end, this was a rank 3 ingenuity enchant, which I sold for about 9.5k. Then I have a bunch of low-end ring enchants. These glimmerings are actually pretty profitable on the NA region. They go in and out of profit, but if you use your shattering ability and then craft a bunch of these, you can get about a 20 to 30% margin, which is exactly what you see here. Then you see marbled stone and gem cutters, which is coming from Jewelcrafting. You see the crystal fused hide, which is coming from Leatherworking. We do have a few just kind of throw out items in here, like these runes right here. This was just, I had to craft it for crafting. We have some gleaming shards that got thrown in here, some storm dust that got thrown in here. We got some chitin armor bandings, which is another leatherworking item. We just got some random weapon grips. I think that was used for leveling my leatherworking. Some random cloak enchants, etc. Most of this is just kind of reagents as well as jewel crafting stuff. We can actually loot this and see what's under there. I'm not exactly sure. This was just from a few bit of sales, but I think under here might be some Myso Bloom sales. We'll have to see. There we go. So some sales were hiding under here. I was just selling some of the, you know, skill buff things. We have some glittering glass that I was able to get. We have all those chopped Myso Blooms, so I was saying that cooking flip is actually pretty decent, and some other stuff. So something currently that I'm doing is I really don't have a dedicated bank tune at the moment because I'm kind of all over the place. Either I sell things on this character, or I've actually been selling a lot of things on my Jewelcrafting character. Generally, I like AFK craft Jewelcrafting stuff and then just repost on that same character, selling some stuff on my main as well. So I still gotta kind of dedicate another bank tune, but in terms of everything, that's basically how my professions look. In terms of ranking, I would say that Jewelcrafting by far has made me the most gold. Leatherworking in second place. Leatherworking I know because, you know, separate sales are very easy to track. I'm about 4 million gold up in just the profession tools, so that has been super awesome, plus the reagent crafting that has been doing pretty good. That is another super good bonus. Then I would probably say that Inscription was doing pretty good. I'd probably put that at number 3. Then I'd probably put just Tailoring and Enchanting, and at the back end I'd probably put Alchemy and Blacksmithing, Engineering somewhere in the middle as well. I'm probably forgetting something, but in general, you know, the really big outliers for me has been Jewelcrafting and Leatherworking, but those are the professions I've been focused on the most. But yeah guys, I will stop rambling. I know this video is long, but hopefully you were able to take away a few good tips from it. But hopefully this shows you a little bit more behind the scenes. You know, I'm not out here doing any sort of crazy shuffles, Acuity shuffles, anything like that. I'm just kind of going with the flow, and gold is just flowing in. So let me know if you guys have any questions. Let me know what professions have been working for you, what professions you don't really like, what professions you do like, and of course, if you have any questions, comments, whatever, leave them in the comments down below, and I'll try my best to respond as fast as possible. But everybody, thank you so much for your support. If you've made it this far, let me know your favorite ice cream flavor, and I'll let you guys know mine. But thank you guys so much for watching, and have a good day.